All right, we now welcome on a very special guest to Knee Brace Radio, Barstool sports personality, sports handicapper, and one of the most electric men on Twitter, Jeff Nadu. Jeff, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, guys. How you doing?
Hanging in there, man. It's sports heaven right now, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, we're 6 for 6 in the last week.
Yeah, giving out
We,
picks on our
wow, you're
podcast.
6-0. That's
Yeah.
great. Good
Yeah,
for you. That's hard to do.
it's
It's
more luck than anything right now on our end, but
Beginner's
that,
luck. We just started giving out picks.
that's a nice way to start. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember a couple of years ago, I had a season. So basically, I think it was 2017. I had a wildly good college basketball season, and then the next year, I kind of had this moxie that I was this, the greatest gambler in the world.
mhm.
And, look, I've always been good at college basketball, but people expected me to do what I did the year before. And I remember I started out 0-9 that year. And it just kind of was it was the worst week of my life, really. So be happy you started 6-0 because it could have been,
Yeah, the other
one
way
and
around.
5 or 0-6 or something crazy. So
Technically, right now we're 10 for 12 to start out the year. We went
wow.
4-6 the first week, 6 for 6 the second week,
While you're starting to,
or 6-0. Yeah,
you're starting to do stuff like I usually do.
nah,
Good work.
nah.
Good work. That's great.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
So I want to hop right into it. So as I mentioned before, Barstool sports personality put out a great blog today. How did you get your start at Barstool? I mean, I know from the rumors I heard was that you gave out basketball picks to Big Cat and then you just kind of went from there. Can I get the straight from the source? How did you get your start at Barstool and how did you get?
Yeah, that's actually not far off. I was just kind of this was I don't know, this is going on 3 years ago, probably 2.5, 3 years ago now. I just kind of reached out to Big Cat and I've been on gambling Twitter a long time. So,
Mhm.
he kind of, if you know him, he kind of, occasionally will follow people like that. And he followed me and I just kind of I knew he was struggling at that time in college basketball. And I kind of just threw him a couple games and we started to do well with it. He was winning. And one day he was just kind of like, this was before, this was back at the old office. They had no gambling personalities. They were still
Mhm.
kind of green, deciding what they were going to do with it. And he said to me, do you want to come talk to Dave about some of your ideas? I can float him your name. I vouch for you. And I was like, for sure. I don't know if I can curse. I don't.
No,
Oh,
you're
you're
good.
good.
You're
Totally
good.
good.
So yeah, I was like, fuck yeah, I would love to come up. And he said, all right, he'll reach out to you. And it took a little bit. It took a week or two. And I remember it was a February and I got a DM from a Dave Portnoy profile that I thought would be verified because most of those guys are
Yeah.
verified. And he was just like, hey, do you want to come talk to me about your gambling ideas? And I said, yeah, for sure. But I kind of in the back of my head had to look at the profile and kind of just make sure it was actually him. But it kind of went from there. I went up, I talked to Dave, and I remember the first thing he said to me when I walked up the elevator was, is this our guy? He said to Ebony, the security girl, and she said, yeah. And he goes, wow. He goes, you're right out of Central Casting. And he still says that today. But we kind of went from there. And, initially it kind of took some time, because they had the pen stuff they were kind of coming together with. They moved offices.
Mhm.
And then weirdly enough, guys, he offered me, and at the time it was kind of right before last season's college basketball. And I was just kind of in a weird spot from a personal level. I I couldn't get out of a lease that I was in, and the situation that was presented just didn't work out. So we kind of went our separate ways for a while. And this past January, he reached out, asked me if I wanted to come up and do some Pick Central stuff and kind of get back into the groove of things. And at that point, we agreed on something, and I was supposed to actually start Selection Sunday of this past
Oh
year.
wow.
But 6 days before that, coronavirus comes, cancels everything. So I was kind of just doing my thing the whole summer, and it ended up working out because I went and got into shape and lost a lot of weight and whatever. But it was kind of a wild story. I mean, there was just all these things that kind of got in the way, but eventually it worked out, and now I'm here.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, you were a little bit of a mystery now that you're coming more into the spotlight. Like I said, you wrote a great blog today ranking all of the gamblers in the office. And you did awesome on Pick Central. I liked your breakdown of everything. Um, have you met those guys? I know you've gone to the Philly house and done some gambling stuff there. What's the vibes in the gambling house in Philly?
Well, I mean, to answer your question, I've been to the office. I was
Mhm.
at the old office. I've been at the new office. I've done some radio. So yeah, I've met all those guys. As far as the vibe, it's great. I mean, it's a really cool house. It's in a great area in Philadelphia. It's kind of a, you know, kind of just a cool house. It's big. It's, plenty of
Mhm.
cameras and TVs. It's tough though. I mean, a lot of people just think, wow, you just sit there all day and watch football. But there's so many TVs. There's so much going on. You have to know what's live and what's red zone. And
Yeah.
after you do it once or twice, you kind of get the hang of it. But yeah, everybody's real cool. Everyone's got a cool vibe to them, and we're all doing one thing. We're all gambling on something. So it's fun. I have a good time with it. And like I said, I've always had a pretty good rapport with most of those guys. I think there's a respect that they have, and I think that's important.
Yeah. How do you think like the legalization of online sports betting in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania has kind of like changed the stigma a little bit, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean the stigma. Obviously, you can do it anywhere now, so it's a lot more acceptable. And I think that's the biggest thing. Gambling. It's nice to see us just be able to go and do it. For
Mhm.
so many years you couldn't do that, but this is a great area for gambling. Up where I live in
Yeah.
Philadelphia and some of the suburbs and even out
I
into the country.
I was gonna say I cleaned out the V one weekend when I was there. I have family that lives outside of Philly, and that's a beautiful casino.
Yeah, no, and there's there's so many avenues and there's so many people that gamble here. It was a really great place to do it. It's a great sports town as well. It's funny. I actually told this story on a show I did a day or two ago. I remember the first day I went to the gambling house, and Spider, who had his own gambling success recently with the Big Betty hit. I remember
Mhm.
when I came in that day, he said to me, make sure you lock the door when you come in and out. And I said, well, yeah, of course. He goes, yeah, well, we had people that would just come in like out of nowhere, like I guess just stoolies that were fans. Because the spot, if you know anything about Philadelphia and you know kind of the lay of the land, it's not a hard place to find. So
Yeah.
it's definitely got a cool vibe, and it's nice because it's on a block that's not really traffic laden, so you can go out and you can get a breath of fresh air and you kind of be in your element. So it's cool.
It
Absolutely.
sounds like a great time. So I'm newer to gambling than Kyle is. Kyle's a little bit more seasoned when it comes to gambling. Um, for our listeners and myself included, can you go through some general bets and what they mean as far as like over unders, money line, puck line, all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, obviously every sport's going to have some different wagering. I mean, the most basic, normal, novice wager would be, who's going to cover the spread. So one team's going to be, let's say, a 6-point favorite. That means for you to win your game, you have to win by more than 6 or 7 or higher. If you take the underdog at +6, as long as they stay within 5 or less, you would win. Now, again, if it lands on the number, you would just get your money back. Over under would be the amount of points in the game. Are there going to be more than 44 points? So, if as long as it's 27-20, you win. Now, if it's under 44, you would lose. Those are kind of the norms. They're very simple. Then you obviously have a money line wager where you just have to pick who's going to win. Now, along those lines, it's not as easy as you might think. You don't just pick the game, and if it wins, you win. Obviously, there's a money line attached, so the casino will attach a number as far as how big a favorite they are. So you may have to wager, let's say tonight, or whenever the show's going to put out. Let's say the Lakers are a 7.5-point favorite. They're going to have that spread, but there's going to be a money line where if the Lakers win, you would win, but you're going to have to lay a certain amount to get your original $1 back
Yeah.
per se. But then there's other sports like baseball and hockey. There's a puck line, and that would be my, if I were to give advice to anyone that's starting to wager or getting into wagering, there's two things that you have to do, and if you do not do them, um, you know like anything, whenever you are doing something, it's best to research it before you
Mhm.
do it. So when I went on a diet and I lost weight, I didn't just jump in and say, I'm going to run 5 miles today. I found something that worked and I went with it. So when you're gambling, you obviously want to understand, first of all, what you're betting on. And B, you want to do some research to make sure you're doing it all the right way and you're putting your money in the best spots. But yeah, obviously the most important thing you need to do is just be responsible when you're doing something. This is not, when you play Monopoly, the money's fake, right?
Mhm.
When you gamble, that's real money. And you don't want to get into, points that, can hurt you. So just do it responsibly and know what you're doing.
Absolutely. You've been handicapping for quite some time now, and I know you mentioned that you had some success with college basketball in the past. What's your favorite sport to handicap, or what do you think you're the best at?
Well, I once said if gambling was completely gone, it just disappeared, and I just had to watch sports, basketball would be my number one. I've loved basketball since I was, able to see. Basically, I remember, growing up. I mean, I have the Allen Iverson shirt on right now. I mean, he was my hero growing up, and I remember in Philadelphia going to some of the great, street ball leagues back in the day. I've just always loved basketball. I'm a basketball junkie, so I would say basketball. I'm big on when I bet. I'm big on niche markets. So basically, finding, let's say in college basketball, betting on lower level teams. Some of the smaller leagues. I think there's a lot of value in those. But to be honest, my favorite sport to bet on and handicap is outside of basketball, probably soccer. I've always done pretty well there. I'm big. I'm big into the Italian league, into the Premier League. So I love everything. Football. There's obviously sports I don't bet on, but yeah, I would definitely say basketball. I've always had an affinity for hoops.
Yeah, I feel like for me personally, college basketball is the hardest to pick winners in,
Hmm.
strictly because I think it's the furthest gap from college to professional level. The amount of missed free throws late in the game and missed layups, like, just always seem to come back and bite me. For my brother's bachelor party last year, we went out to Vegas during March Madness, and I was as cold as a block of ice. I couldn't pick a winner if my life depended
Oh,
on it.
look, I mean, I think another important thing about gambling is you need to understand you're not going to win every time you bet. So
I
it's,
mean,
you know,
casinos were not built on winners.
no, no, but they also, you just have to kind of understand that, if you do the right research and you put the bet in, it loses, it loses. You got to go back and look at it and see what you did wrong. But, college basketball has always just been something that I've spent a lot of time on, and I've kind of found what works. I for some odd reason, even the NBA as well, I've always, I did seemingly really well this year in the bubble and even before the virus. But yeah, basketball has always come kind of natural to me. But I've heard a lot of people say, I would say to me, the hardest sport to bet on probably is at times college football. This year has
Mhm.
been pretty easy so far, but baseball can be difficult as well. Some of these playoffs and those kind of things, I don't think there's a lot of wiggle room, but that's interesting. You say college basketball. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's just kind of how I always felt that. I always feel like I'm getting screwed late in the game because somebody's not hitting free throws, or vice versa. They're down by 10 with 3 seconds left and the other team's fouling. And it's
If
like,
you were to ask me in basketball, what is the first thing I look at when I look at a game? If you bet on teams consistently that do not shoot free throws well, you will lose.
mhm.
Because at the end of the game, as you said, a lot of the time it's going to come down to free throws, whether those teams can make those. And when you're covering a number, let's say it's 5, 6, 7, you're going to have to extend the game and you're going to have to make those free throws when that team wants to extend the game if you're down. So yeah, you've got to be looking at that kind of stuff.
So I got a quick question about the term sports handicapper. I don't know. Have you ever seen the documentary Action on Showtime where they
I,
cover Vegas Dave and Kelly in
I,
Vegas and all those
I,
guys?
I have seen that. Yes.
Okay, so after that came out, I feel like I saw some of my friends on Twitter start getting into sports gambling. They get into things like that, and there are guys like Dave, who I remember last year gave out Jets Ravens. His pick of the game or his lock was Ravens money line against the Jets. It's like, yeah, no duh, dude. Do you think that the term sports handicapper is viewed in a negative term or a positive term?
Uh, right now, I would say, I think it's kind of in the
Depends on
past. In the past, it's had a negative thought just
connotation.
because people just have that thought of what that person is. A lot of people remember, even in like the financial world, those kind of boiler rooms where you're just calling people all day. If you've ever seen the movie
Mhm.
Boiler Room, you know what I'm talking about. But, I think for me, you know, I think there are people that enjoy betting on sports and maybe they have some success and they think they're gamblers. A lot of people now in the space, they're popping up everywhere, as you
Yeah.
said. But I've always looked at sports handicapping kind of like the poker world. If you know where I'm going here, I remember back in the day, and still to this day, there are people that play poker that you always see, playing poker, whether it's, Phil Ivey or Doyle Brunson or Phil Hellmuth or whoever, Daniel Negreanu. There's a reason they're always there and doing things. They have the consistency and they've been doing it for a long time. So I've noticed a lot of the guys that come out of the woodwork, most of them, will fizzle out. I've seen hundreds of people that were the flavor of the week and you don't see them after a while. I just try to be consistent. I always try to put out good info and try to have some sort of platform. And, I've seemingly been able to run through, but yeah, you got to make sure and hey, if you find someone that's doing a good job, let it happen. But there's tons of people that pop up and that's just the nature of the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a little bit before we started recording, you and I were talking about, I always find it really interesting how, at what point do Barstool affiliated personalities become full-time Barstool? And you mentioned that you had a story to take me through. Could you sort of take me through?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't, I've been doing content for a long time. Whether it was, I used to work at a bank, whether it was during that. I remember, I was around, I don't know, 21 or so, 22. And this was when there wasn't many people doing content. I mean, this is 10 years ago, probably to this day. And, guys like you that do it now, it's pretty normal. But back then, no one really did it. And I remember my father said to me, why don't you do a podcast? I heard that's kind of popular and you can just talk about stuff. And I did. I started this random little show. And I remember the first episode, I got 6 people to listen to it. And it was me, 3 of my friends, and my mother and father. And, I just kind of decided that I wanted to do it. And I had levels that I wanted to get to. And like I said, I worked a regular job for a long time. As far as kind of when I thought I could do something with it was when I said to myself, I'm going to try to monetize what I'm doing here. I'm not going to obviously leave my job, but if I can make some money on the side doing this, I'm going to. And I found some spots that wanted people to do content, and I just kind of worked it up from there. But a lot of it's just been me sitting there and doing it. And there will be times where, 100 people are watching, but what you're doing while that's happening is you're getting better and better at delivery. You're getting better and better at, reciting things and talking about stuff. I've often said there are certain things on Periscope and stuff that I don't think anyone can do. I can just stand there and I can rail off stuff off anything for an hour. And I think that's something that is something a lot of people can't do. And I think there's a niche for it. And this business has gotten stronger and stronger where there's a need for people like me. Did I ever think that when I started doing what I was doing, I was just thought, I would just gamble and that would be that. But there's a new market. It's a new world out there. And, YouTube, whether you're a content creator talking about makeup or toys or whatever, there's always an avenue for someone. And, you see Barstool, some of the people that come there, it's fairly random, whether it's Brandon Walker or Marty. For me, I was always trying to build something, and this just kind of popped up and it worked out.
Yeah. I have one last question, Nick. Do you have any more?
Yeah, I do. I just have a couple gambling questions.
Yeah,
but
go for it.
So my question is, futures to me always seem a little risky. What is your standpoint on futures, and do you have any teasers for our listeners out there for futures?
Yeah, I'm a future guy. I do bet them. I think for me though, there are different future wagers. I will not bet a future as far as win totals and things like that. Occasionally I'll do it, if I really like something. But the problem you have with those bets are when you're betting, let's say a football team to go over 8 wins, you have to have your money tied up for 6-7 months. And you're basically getting your money back and then another bet. If I'm going to put my money into something, when the return comes back, if it comes back, I want it to be a legitimate return. So I'm going to look at odds in the scheme of who's going to win the title. And a lot of the time, let's just say college basketball, I'm always going to look at a future that pays out something substantial. And that's not to say that I don't bet a 9-1 or a 10-1 or 11-1, but I'm looking at teams in college basketball that can make the tournament. And once I can get to the tournament, I have ways to get out of that bet and hedge or whatever. But yeah, I think futures are terrific. I think they're good investments. And I actually think if you're just kind of a novice player, I think it's a good start. You don't have to kind of have that every night sweat. You can kind of, look at it from a long season standpoint, and, that can kind of vault you. I remember back UConn won the NCAA tournament. This was back with Kevin Ollie and Kemba Walker. This was
this is the heart attack Kemba, whatever they call him.
I want to say
cardiac Kemba.
Cardiac Kemba. There it is.
2011.
Yeah, it was 2010 or 11. Yeah, right around there.
They were 90-1 pre-tournament. And I had a little piece of it, and that kind of vaulted me and got me really kind of going in the business. So, when you can find those opportunities, they present themselves. I have the Miami Heat right now at a really good price. So
are you hedging that?
I have not hedged. No. Obviously game 4 will be a big one, but I think a lot of the time, you hit on them sometimes you don't.
Right. Kyle, go ahead, man.
So I have one last question. So for people that have been following Barstool for a while and read your blog today, you have Rico as your bottom gambler. I mean, this is the first time we've met. We DM'd on Twitter, and you seem like the nicest guy in the world. So can you kind of go through a little bit of the do-to-do that you guys have going on, or the argument, whatever you want to call it? If not, no worries, but I find it interesting.
No, I've talked about it before. I want to make this real clear. The list I put out, that was my most honest thing I'll ever write. I put all those in a list and I picked them out, and I truly believe the list I put out is the best list. People will say, oh, you put Rico last because they don't like each other. No, I couldn't find anything positive to say about him, and he just became last. But as far as how it started, it's funny. I always say to this day, if Rico can tell me why he doesn't like me, I'd like to hear it, because I don't know why he doesn't like me. I think a lot of it has to do with years ago. This was like 3 years ago. If you guys know who Blackjack Fletcher is,
yep.
Blackjack actually won a contest at Barstool where they were looking for a gambling intern. This was way long ago.
I remember this.
Blackjack won the competition, and he had some real connections with Barstool. He did some rundowns, and he watched games with them and stuff, and he always had a little connection. It was back when Dan was kind of the brains behind gambling, and Blackjack got into a riff with Rico because Rico was connected with Barstool loosely as well. And if you know anything about Rico, he doesn't like when other gambling people are talked to.
Squeeze him out.
Correct. So he started going at Blackjack. And at the time, Blackjack and I, were kind of doing some things. We didn't have a job at that point. We were just kind of doing stuff. And he was saying a lot of stuff publicly about Blackjack. And look, I'm a loyal guy. If my friends are being beat up, I'm going to jump in and defend my friends. That's just how it works. And I had a problem with that. And I said something to him about it. And, he started kind of just having an issue with me. And it got to a point where I'd hear him make, little phrases and things about me. And, I don't care if you talk about me. I have no issue with that. But when you start to make it a point to be a prick to me, I'm going to be a prick back to you. And it just has kind of snowballed from there. But yeah, if you were to ask him, he couldn't tell me why he doesn't like me. I think in a way, and I don't mean to say this arrogantly, I think he's very threatened by me. And I think it's pretty clear. He knows that I know what I'm doing with this stuff. And he knows that, he's not a good gambler, and that hurts him. And I think it hurts his thought of respect.
Well, I mean, you're already better in our book because he for sure stood us up on an interview.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not surprising. I'm sure he'll block you after this.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Once he sees it, probably will.
Yeah, because he scheduled it for opening day of baseball.
Okay.
Right at first pitch.
Okay.
And when we realized he had done that, we both looked at each other and we said, "Oh, he did this on purpose."
Really? Wow.
Well, I believe, to be fair, I believe it was a reschedule, and then we said 7:00, and he was like, "All right, sure, I'll see you there." And then we just waited here for like an hour with our thumbs up our butts, like, what the hell's going on? And then as we were watching the Yankees game, so to be fair to him a little bit, but yeah,
That's interesting. Yeah, look, he I think when I come deep down, I think Rico is an entertaining guy. He really is.
he is. He's an entertainer, that's for sure.
But I think, for him, and when I said this in the blog, he believes he's a good gambler. And I think for him, it just kind of makes him look bad. But look, I wish him the best. I have no visceral hate to the guy. I want to fight him at Rough Round. I've said that multiple times. He won't do it. But it's time to step up, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, he was the guy just had to put last because I believe he's last.
Well, you did leave Nick off the list. He's currently 3-1 and gave his picks to Brandon.
Yeah,
Walker, so
the thing is, I want to say,
I'm just joking.
No, I want to say this as well, though. There are people that I didn't rank. I tried to keep it. I try to keep it to, people that are doing it on an everyday basis. I know guys like Reegs and even, someone mentioned, why didn't I include Stu?
NRA.
Yeah, well, sure. Rear Admiral. I guess for me, I guess I wouldn't know, a lot of them just cap one sport, and I'll probably do kind of a bigger list at some point, but I even had people pissed off that I put Jack Mack number one, but I truly believe Jack Mack.
There was a good rationale behind why Jack Mack was number one.
Yeah, I think he's a really good gambler. And I think if you actually read his blogs, he puts the time in. You talk about hard workers. I've met Jack Mack. I've known Jack Mack for a while. He's probably the hardest worker, one of the hardest workers at that company. He's always in there. He's always doing stuff. He's dedicated his life to that company. So,
and it sounds like he approaches gambling very sensibly.
A lot like I do. And I respect someone, because there's two different types of gamblers. There's guys, like I said, that just do it for fun and they like to bet on their favorite team or whatever. But Jack Mack, I feel like, actually knows what to look for. He understands what sharp money is. He understands, kind of some of the other ancillary things. So I gave him his respect.
Yeah, for sure.
Jeff, this has been awesome, man. Where can they actually, one last thing.
Yeah.
Can you give us a World Series, not winner, but who do you think is going to be in the World Series, AL, NL?
Well, I think that this is the best Dodger team we've had, and they've kind of gotten that proverbial monkey off their back where they win. I know it wasn't it was a 3-game thing, but that's big. I think they represent the NL. As far as the AL, I'm a Yankee. They are. I'm a Yankee guy, though. I worry about their pitching a little bit. I was pretty high on the Rays, but last night was definitely concerning. I'm going to go really square. I'm going to go Yankees, Dodgers, and I think
that's what my pick was on Saturday's episode.
Yeah, and I think for the baseball world and the fans of the sport, I think they'll enjoy it quite a lot.
Well, I mean, the sports gods took away Boston, LA.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to give us LA, New York for baseball. Just to sort of you didn't get chalk for basketball. Here's chalk for baseball.
Yeah, it's just I'm sure you will agree with me. It's just nice to have sports back. Oh, yeah. I think there were so many things in this pandemic that people just kind of assumed would never go away, whether it was sports or whatever. And when it did, we remember. I mean, you guys remember some of those nights, they were rough. I mean, you're watching nothing, and there's literally nothing to watch or do anything. So
yeah, we all melted our brains with Tiger King.
Yeah, or you watched,
The Office 9 times in a row.
Yeah, or Sopranos for the 8,000th time. So yeah, it's all great that it's back. I just hope that people kind of follow the rules and we keep having it. We need absolutely. An NCAA tournament. We need the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Jeff,
sure.
where can people find you on Twitter and your socials? Give yourself a shout out.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. At Jeff, JFFNADU. You can also read my blogs at barstoolsports.com. I hope I didn't offend anyone with my rankings. That wasn't my goal. But yeah, check me out. I'm always doing periscopes and trying to educate people and help people win. So,
like I said, one of the most electric men on Twitter.
Hey, if you can't take the heat, get out of the heat.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, fellas. Thanks.